Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I'm underneath the plant room in the basement, and this is where I store my trees over the long cold winters here. And you might notice that there's no trees in the basement, so where are they? I checked the weather for the next 2 weeks, and it looks like we're in for a mild spell, so I brought the trees up from the basement and put them outside. I spent most of yesterday moving the trees outside, putting wood chips down in the pathways, and watering all the trees. We still have a bit of ice and snow on the ground, but the chickens are outside enjoying the weather. A lot of the trees are just starting to break buds now, and the warm weather we've been having the last couple of days is certainly accelerating their progress. This is my black willow here. You can see it's budding out. Beside it is an American elm. The buds are swelling on it, that's for sure. This is the willow from the ancient old willow in the park. You can see all the roots coming through, forming in the air there. Yeah, that tree is doing really well. This is my small leaf linden tree. Buds are nice and green on that. It kept its leaves last year, which is kind of unusual, but it certainly looks healthy. It also flowered for the first time last year, and you can see the little seed pods on it right here. I'll have to try planting those. Over here I've got the biggest American elm. It's looking really good. The buds are all swelling nicely. Here's my native red pine that's planted on the island. The moss has really grown well on that. Must really like growing on that limestone rock. So that looks like it's doing really well. The buds are just starting to swell on that. Here's my willow tree. Looks like it's doing all right also. Got a bit of dieback up top here, but not a whole lot. There's my Austrian pine. Got through the winter really nicely. All kinds of buds starting to swell, and they'll be elongating soon into candles. Depending on the weather, of course. If it does turn cold, I'll have to move them back into the basement. I mean, April's kind of one of those months. You can have a warm spell and then it can drop well below freezing. Here's the old apple tree. It's got two live veins, this one growing up the side here, and this whole back section of the tree is alive. And all the buds are starting to break on that also. So it's looking good. Hopefully I can restyle that into something really nice someday. Over here I've got the native red maple. I dug up from the garden. Big chop on the top here, which isn't the nicest, but yeah, the buds are all swelling on that also. Looking really good. These are the Douglas firs. When I brought them out yesterday, I noticed that I think it's woolly aphids on them, so I'm going to give those a spray with soap and water. I just noticed those on some of the branches, so we'll give that a spray, but it's looking really good. Just a beautiful, rugged old tree. These ones were folded in half. They were in a suitcase, and they're straightening out. So, yeah, they're doing really well. These are just some... Oh, the zombie apocalypse. These are just some inexpensive cedars that I got from Lowe's. I think they were... what were they? 3 for $10, I think. They were really cheap. So I'll be doing something with them. This is my cuttings down here. My Thuya occidentalis, or my cedar cuttings. They survived the winter really nicely. So they'll have to go in their own pot. There's an old willow cutting in here too that I've got to dig up. Here's my mountain style cedar. Doing quite well. I'm going to be repotting that this spring. There's my cedar that's growing over top of that really interesting rock. The moss is growing really well on it too, so here's my little cedar, and it's not the little cedar spirit tree, this is the witch's tree, I believe. So yeah, that's where I did a lot of, peeling off of the bark. I'm going to let that heal and just, try and get a really rugged looking trunk on it. There's a few seedlings back there. I think that's my catalpa seedlings. Here's my Thuja occidentalis, the one with the big trunk that I'm growing the top. So it's sort of in between collecting and growing this tree. I collected it, but it'll take a lot of growing to get a nice canopy on top. There's my little cedar spirit tree here. One with a really kind of gnarly looking trunk. So I'll continue developing that. Here's my Norway Maple. It just barely survived last year. This year it got the protection in the basement, so it's doing really well. All the buds are swelling. You can see them right here, coming out really nicely. I did lose last winter when I kept the tree outside. It did lose this one part of the apex, but I'll have to replace it with this one. There's my collection of all kinds of interesting junk. In the greenhouse over here, I have got my red maple that I repotted in a recent video. Looks like it's doing well. The buds are starting to swell on it. Beside the red maple is my little Douglas fir seedlings. They look like they survived the winter without any problems. Looks like the buds are swelling on those. These are all the little willow cuttings I collected from that kind of big weeping willow in the park. The one that sort of looks like a tropical tree. It's a low kind of flat canopy on it. So those are starting to bud out too. This is I think this is a red pine too, collected red pine. Quite an unusual tree. It has a bit of white scale insect on it. I'll have to spray that too. These are my silver maples. They're 3 years old now. Doing very well. They've always stayed outside all winter, and I've never had a problem losing them from the cold. So, a very hardy tree. I have some wisteria growing back in behind there from seed. I have some red maples from a really grand old red maple back there. These are my royal oaks up here. I think a couple of them died, but I think there's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 that are still alive, so I'm hoping they do well this year. There's my ginkgo that I just repotted, and I noticed way up top, where was it now? Right here, there's a bit of green on the bud there. So, yeah, we'll look forward to that coming out into leaf. Here's another red maple. This was from the front garden. Had kind of a twisty trunk, so I've been working on that as a bonsai. Leaves, or the buds are swelling on that also. Here's the smallest American elm that I have, collected from the front garden. It was started from a seed. Yeah, doing all right. This is my native white pine that I collected quite a few years ago, probably 4 years ago, I think. It's getting very close to doing a bit of styling. I did pinch this tree for the very first time last year, so kind of exciting to be working on it. There's my other American elm back there, medium-sized one. It has a big cut in it, but that'll heal someday, and you can always put that cut towards the back, work on the tree. So that's it for in the greenhouse. Let's go back outside now, and we'll head to this bench. There's the clump style cedar that I styled in a recent video. I really like the structure of that tree. It just needs, you know, more branch development, and yeah, I think it'll be really nice in future. There's my bird's nest spruce, looking good. I'm going to do a little bit of restyling on it. I'm just going to move this one branch out into the open spot here a little bit. Here's my Avatar Grove style cedar forest, or thuya forest. It looks like it came through the winter really nice. This sedum just never stopped growing in the winter. You can see how long it is. Oh, I'll have to trim that all up. Here's my single larch over here. It's all coming out now, looking really good. Yeah, happy with that. Here's the larch forest. And they're all coming out into leaf now. You can see them all starting to green up. So that's good. Looks like they're doing well. Here's my thuya, my cascading thuya. Quite dark. You can see the olive color on the leaves here. Yeah, that'll green up as soon as that sap starts flowing. It'll just green up to a dark green. It's just dormant at the moment still. And here's my elephant diorama with my thuya trees. They're also, you know, got their kind of winter colors still. But they'll also green up very soon, I'm sure, with this weather. Elephants all look happy there. And again, the sedum's just grown like crazy over the winter. That'll all have to be pruned back. I had really good luck overwintering my trees in the basement this year. I didn't lose any trees. Last winter I had to keep them outside on the bench, and I lost a lot of trees. So if you notice a tree missing, it's probably died, so that's why it's not there. I'm not the only one outside enjoying the nice weather today. The ducks are outside playing in the mud puddles. Look at them. Hi guys. Getting kind of dirty there. Those are the bowling pins, the Indian runners. There you go. The silkies are outside too, getting dirty in the mud. Hello. We've been working on the pathways back here in the forest, getting the wood chips down. So pretty soon everything's going to be greening up back here. So it's really important in these forests to get all the work done before everything comes out into leaf, because it just, yeah, it really changes the landscape when everything comes up. And to get out before all the mosquitoes and bugs come out is really important too. So we're working on the backyard too. Hi Giselle. Hi Giselle, hello. There's Giselle coming to visit. You leaving already? I'm trying to pick out a tree to work on today. Trying to decide what tree needs the most work, or most important to work on at this very moment. And I'm leaning towards this Norway Maple. I have a lot of shoots from last year. Long shoots that need pruning back to, you know, some buds further down the branch here. I've got a dead apex I gotta remove on top. I've got another tree growing beside it here that I think is a birch, but I'm not sure. I've got another, I think there's a white pine maybe growing here. I could separate those. Oh, I have a little cedar growing here too. I got some buds that need rubbing off on the trunk here. I don't want a branch coming out there. So I think I'll work on this maple today. It needs work before it comes out in spring, so let's do that. I'm going to start the work on this maple by removing all the dead branches. So there's one here that's dead, so I'll get rid of that, like that. This apex up here died, so I'll get rid of that. There we go. I'll just clean that cut up like that. There's a few dead branches up here too that need removing. I'll come in and remove that. Just like that. And I think this one's dead also, so we'll get rid of that one. There's a big stump right here that's also dead. So I'll come in and clean that up also. Just removing that. Like that. That looks good. Now, you can see it already has kind of a ball shape on the top here. So to prevent that, I just want to let one leader grow. I don't want this little branch down here. That'll contribute to the ball shape. So we'll just prune that off also, like that. My next step on this tree is to prune back all these long shoots back to a pair of buds to tighten up that ramification. So I'll come here and cut the apex down to here. I'll just take the top off this one to here, cut this one back to here, this one down to here, that one back to there, and that one back to there. This branch here, there's some really big buds right at the tips here. So I'm going to prune those off, and there's some buds down lower that I can develop. I'll give you a close-up of those. There's a close-up of these buds. So you can see, you know, they're twice as large as some of the other apical buds or buds at the tips of the other branches. So they need to be removed. Otherwise, these branches will just grow too strongly once they come out. So I'll just take the tops off of those like that, and this one back here, just like that. There's places here where I have a lot of branches growing out from one spot. Right here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 branches coming out from one spot. I just want to keep this main branch coming up here, so all these others will get removed. That, like that, and this one here, like that. There's a branch here on the trunk that I also don't want to develop. I've got this one developing here, and there's one out the back, which I don't think I want either. So I'm definitely going to take this front one off, like that. And there's a bud here I want to remove also, so I'll take that off. I don't want to grow a branch there. And then I have to decide about this back one here. I've got one branch here, one here, one here. I don't think it'll hurt having a branch there. I think it'll look quite nice in the original design. There's a lot of maples that have like all kinds of branches coming off. It's not really a formal structure, you know, a left and right hand branch and a back branch. So to have it kind of random like this looks quite natural for a maple. There's a few other buds I need to clean up here, so I'll get rid of those. There's one here. I could get rid of this part of this branch here. It's sticking out. Just clean that up like that. The tree doesn't need to be repotted this year. It was repotted the year before, and then it just barely survived last winter. I thought I'd killed the tree, but it regained its strength and it's alive and well. So I'm going to leave it just in this soil for this year. It's got lots of room. This is in a training box. So I think all the work is done. I'll wait and see what comes out in spring. I'll keep checking for buds coming out where they're not supposed to be, and I'll rub them off. And you know, someday this tree will get a nice clean trunk line. Right now it's pretty rough and bumpy, but I'm hoping that improves over the upcoming years. I'll put the tree back on the bench now, and we'll let that grow. Let's head indoors now for today's update. Today's update is my grapefruit bonsai. I grew this from a seed, and I've been managing the roots ever since. I think it's about probably 20 years old now. Here's a view of the root base, and you can see all the ramification coming from the central trunk. Here's a higher up view of the radial root base. The tree always had this strange bump here, and I removed it years ago, and that's starting to heal over now, so it looks a lot better than having that strange bump there. The grapefruit tree is just starting to get its spring growth in now, so it's looking good and healthy. I'm really happy with it. The trunk is getting some really nice striped bark on it. That's typical of a citrus tree. It's time now for viewers' picks. Today's viewers' picks comes from Ryan. He has an eastern red cedar, a ginseng ficus, a loblolly pine, a red maple bonsai, a Siberian cypress bonsai, and a silver maple bonsai. So thanks, Ryan, for sending in those picks. That's it for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.